In the heart of a dense and ancient forest, nestled among gnarled oak trees and silver birch, there was a clearing bathed in perpetual sunlight. It was known far and wide as Raven's Rest. This was no ordinary place. It was a sanctuary where rules were bent and nature's laws seemed to take a back seat to whimsy. Deep within this enchanted realm lived a wise old owl. He wasn't just any owl. He was known as the Keeper of Tales, the silent chronicler of all that transpired in the Whispering Woods. His feathers were the color of moonlight. His eyes shone like polished amber, and his wisdom was as vast as the night sky. He had seen seasons come and go, witnessed countless tales unfold, and each night he added another layer to his collection of stories. One crisp afternoon, as the sun dappled through the leaves, painting mosaic patterns on the ground, the tranquility of Raven's Rest was shattered. A cacophony of barks, screeches, and panicked squawks erupted from the normally placid woods. The Keeper of Tales, awakened from his slumber, hooted softly, a sound that carried the weight of ages. His keen ears had picked up the undertones of fear and urgency in the chorus of cries. With a solemn nod, he launched himself into the twilight sky, his wings barely disturbing the stillness of the air. As he soared above the canopy, the sight that greeted him was both perplexing and alarming. Hundreds of rooks had formed a tight, agitated mass in the clearing. They weren't merely gathered, they were in turmoil, their dark shapes twisting and turning against the gray backdrop of the sky like smoke in a windless place. At the center of this maelstrom stood a lone figure. It was a magpie, smaller and lighter than its avian attackers, yet unafraid. It wasn't just standing, it was dancing, twisting and turning in ways that defied gravity and reason. For a moment, the Keeper of Tales was baffled. He had seen magpies before, those dapper birds with a taste for shiny trinkets and a knack for mimicry. He had also witnessed the rooks' boisterous gatherings, their raucous laughter echoing through the woods, but he had never seen anything like this. What was this macabre ballet in the fading light? Why was the magpie provoking the rooks? Was it drunk on a strange berry, or driven mad by some unseen force? As he watched, mesmerized by the unfolding drama, the answers began to dawn on him. The magpie wasn't mocking the rooks or courting death. It was leading them on a chase, a game of hide-and-seek played on the edge of twilight. Each twist, every turn was a feint, a distraction designed to lure the rooks deeper into the forest. The moon climbed higher, casting long, cold fingers of light through the trees as the rooks fell for the bait. Deeper and deeper they went, their cries gradually fading into the vastness of the woods. The magpie led them on, its lithe form weaving through the trees like a phantom. Finally, when the clearing was empty and the last echo of rookery laughter had disappeared, the magpie stopped. It perched on a low branch, panting slightly, its beady eyes gleaming in the moonlight. The Keeper of Tales, now perched on a nearby branch, hooted softly. The magpie didn't flinch. It cocked its head, regarding the owl with a strange mixture of amusement and respect. In that instant, the Keeper of Tales understood. He had seen enough stories unfold to recognize a clever mind at work here. This wasn't mere trickery. This was strategy. The magpie hadn't driven the rooks away out of malice or insanity. It had done so to protect its home, its nest hidden somewhere in the maze of trees. With a newfound respect for the magpie, the Keeper of Tales took to the skies. He flew over the heads of the sleeping rooks, the forest suddenly seeming vast and lonely. As he made his way to Raven's Rest, the events of the evening replayed in his mind. The magpie's bravery, its cunning, its tenacity, it was a tale worth telling. He arrived back at the clearing to find it deserted. The rooks, heavy with sleep, had returned to their roosts, leaving the clearing to the creatures of the night. The magpie was nowhere to be seen. Had it vanished into thin air? Or was it watching from afar, its sharp eyes gleaming in the darkness? The next morning, the whispers started, birdsong turned into hushed murmurs, rustling leaves became gossiping crowds, and the babbling brook sounded like a storyteller sharing secrets. By midday, the entire forest knew about the rook's folly. In the heart of the woods, deep within a thicket of blackberry bushes, lived a family of field mice. They were a hard-working bunch, always scurrying about, gathering seeds and berries, preparing for the winter months ahead. Their days were filled with chores, their nights with rest, and their lives were predictable and safe. Then the rooks came. It started subtly. A few extra shadows at dusk, a sudden flurry of wings at dawn, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. At first, the mice dismissed it. They had shared their burrows with hedgehogs and toads, tolerated the antics of squirrels in their oak tree, and even made friends with a family of voles. So they didn't panic when the rooks arrived. But they should have. As days turned into weeks, the rooks became bolder. They began raiding the mice's food stores, stealing their hard-earned seeds, and even chasing them through the undergrowth. Fear became a constant companion, replacing the mice's carefree ways. Their once bustling community turned into a shadow of itself, hiding in burrows during the day, too afraid to venture out. Then a plan was hatched. A group of the bravest, or perhaps most desperate, mice decided to seek help. They left the safety of their burrows and set off into the woods. Their destination, the legendary Raven's Rest, where it was said that owls listened to the troubles of tiny creatures. Their journey was fraught with peril. They had to dart across open fields, navigate thorny bushes, and endure the taunts of hungry foxes. But their determination kept them going. Finally, as the sun began its descent, they spotted the clearing, a haven of tall trees and whispering grass. There, perched on a low-hanging branch, was the owl, the keeper of tales. The mice, with hearts pounding like drums, approached him. They told him of their woes, of how the rooks had turned their lives into a nightmare. As they spoke, the AOL listened patiently, his amber eyes gleaming with understanding. When the mice finished their tale, he hooted softly, a sound that echoed with wisdom. He told them that their problem wasn't unique. He had heard similar stories before, but he also had a solution. He explained that the rooks needed to be led away from their homes, that their strength lay in their unity, but that unity could be turned against them. The mice, confused but desperate, asked for guidance. The owl, with a knowing look, suggested a simple plan. He told them to gather brightly colored pebbles and arrange them in lines pointing towards their village. The mice, energized by hope, dashed off into the undergrowth. They gathered pebbles, polished by the river, smoothed by the passage of time. They arranged them in lines, creating paths of shimmering stones. Then they hid, their tiny bodies blending with the leaves and twigs. As darkness fell, the rooks returned, their shadows stretching long and eerie in the moonlight. They were looking for food, for trouble, for anything to disrupt the peace of the forest. But what they found instead was a series of shimmering paths. Intrigued, they followed them. At first, it was just a trickle, a few rooks testing the way. But soon entire flocks were following these new trails, drawn deeper and deeper into the woods. The mice watched from their hiding places, their hearts pounding in their chests. The plan was working. The rooks were leaving their homes. But the question remained, where were they going? The keeper of tales watched from his perch as the rooks flew away from their homes, unwittingly following the mice's plan. He understood the brilliance of simplicity, how a small, seemingly insignificant action could have profound consequences. As the night wore on, the forest grew quieter. The mice, emboldened by success, emerged from their burrows. The clearing was filled with the sounds of happy squeaks, the rustle of tiny feet, and the sweet songs of returning birds. The next morning, when the sun painted the sky with hues of gold and rose, the magpie returned to Raven's Rest. It was tired, its feathers ruffled, but its eyes shone with triumph. It had successfully defended its home and driven the crows away. It didn't know about the mice's plan, the owl's wisdom, or the role it had played in the grand scheme of things. All it knew was that it was tired. Very, very tired. The keeper of tales, ever observant, noticed the magpie's return. He hooted softly, acknowledging the bird's bravery. The magpie, startled, took flight, and in that instant, the keeper of tales understood. He had witnessed two remarkable stories unfold, two tales of bravery, intelligence, and resilience. The magpie, unafraid of the crows, and the mice, undaunted by the owls, had defended what was theirs. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the clearing filled with the sounds of a new day. The magpie, preening its feathers, prepared to leave. It dipped its head in acknowledgement to the owl and flew towards the east, its silhouette disappearing against the rising sun. The keeper of tales watched it go, a soft hoot escaping his throat. He knew that the magpie's story would become part of his collection, a tale of courage whispered on the winds. And so the stories continued, each adding another layer to the tapestry of the whispering woods. For the keeper of tales, each story was a piece of his life's work, a chronicle of the forest's soul. And as long as he lived, and even after he had flown to his eternal roost, these stories would echo through the trees, reminding all who listened that even the smallest of creatures can do the most extraordinary things.